Hello, and welcome to Terraria Completionism, Wire Build Edition. And what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be looking at gemlock hubs. Now, the idea, the idea of a gemlock hub isn't that innovative in the field of TMAG. It's not that groundbreaking, but it is relevant to the whole sort of completionism idea that I have here. And just to explain a bit, the whole idea of completionism, right, is to use all the materials in the game, but to also showcase all the materials in the game, sort of show them off, show how they can be used, you know, and theme entire builds around them so you can tell that which material is on display. Like this one in particular, you can see that it's very like copper plating and tin plating themed. The whole point of that is that I don't like having materials that are sort of that they're there to add flavor to the wall type or the background or whatever, but you can't tell what they are. They're sort of concealed. You know, you can't really you can't tell that the point of the build is to show off what that material is, and it is certainly the case here to show off, you know, exactly what every single material and thing is. Now, for aesthetic builds, that by itself is nice, but it's almost always better to sort of augment the builds with a little bit more flavor. And the way that works, you know, if, for example, if the build is very big and sort of in a natural setting like a cave or a forest or something, then you can augment it by adding little, you know, hidden treasures or secrets to give the whole thing a more explorative feel. If the build is like a big complex or castle, you can add some kind of nice centerpiece, you know, which features a unique item or piece of furniture that's sort of presented in a very interesting way and that, you know, catches your eye, and it's like the point of that build is to show off that thing. And of course you can also add mechanisms to sort of augment and flavor the builds more, like light shows, you know, all of these sort of ambient yellow lights that I have here, you know, train stations and gemlock hubs. So that's how, so the idea of a gemlock hub then is there to sort of augment the flavor and the theme of an aesthetic build. That's what it's for. It's to add to the scene and to help tell a little bit more of a story with this interactive element. So we're going here to the power station, and this is the Sapphire Gemlock Hub. And then when I realized how gemlock hubs worked, I realized that I needed to have these centerpiece builds that had the gemlocks at the center to help activate a whole bunch of mechanisms. Now, what's great about gemlocks and what makes them great centerpieces, for one, they are very big and they look like great centerpieces. And they look like this thing that, you know, you put the gem in and it like activates everything, right? That's sort of the thing. And the other thing about them is that they can have the most unique wires attached to them at once. A regular switch, you can have at most 4 wires leading to it, right? The 4 colors. But a gemlock, you can have 16, because you can have 4 groups of the 4 wires without touching. So, I mean, I don't know what build would require 16 unique pulses to 16 separate, you know, lines all at once, but, you know, it's the fact that it has that potential is impressive. So, with the Sapphire one, what I have going on, I'm just going to explain how it works, is I have 1 blue wire, 3 yellows, 2 greens, and 2 reds. And so the blue one, all that the blue one does is it turns on the blue gem spark lights in the power station itself, right? Now, this sort of green, red, and yellow, they all go to the left, to the right, no, to the left. Ignore these like green and blue wires that are outside the station because they don't matter right now. Now, what happens here, this is actually supposed to be on. What happens here is that, so this timer is on, and what that means is that the yellow light is going to be blinking and the orange exterior lights are going to be blinking. The red light is going to be on, and this candle is also going to be blinking. And this is all the red wire that's attached to the gemlock. So when I turn on the gemlock by putting the sapphire in, it turns off this timer and it leaves all of these candles and lights in the state they were in when I turned off the timer. It also hits the green wire, which turns off this red light, and it turns on this candle and it turns on that green light, and it turns on these green lights. And the whole idea of switching the lights this way is that right now this factory, this cloud and sunplate skyware factory is in an off state. When I put the gem lock in, it turns into sort of an on state, and the factory is sort of, you know, in use. The idea with it being off is like these three lights at the top of this machine, it's like stop, slow down, and go. And right now stop is on and slow down is like blinking, so it's like the machine is like stalling, or it's not processing whatever it needs to process to create cloud blocks. But when I put the gem lock in, the red turns off, the yellow is, who cares about the yellow, it's whatever, the green is on, so it's like the machine is working properly. And these lights turn on, so this machine, which creates the skyware stuff, this machine's also on, so everything turns on and everything's working. That's the whole sort of aesthetic point of the gem lock is in this factory. Now, going over to the right side, into the slime factory, now I have all the lights off in the facility to sort of show off what happens. Now here we have two yellow wires and a green and a red. Now one of the yellow wires, it just turns on this white gem spark at the top of this machine. And the idea behind that is that it means that this machine has now turned on. Now this machine is supposed to be the machine that creates slime blocks and feeds the slime block material into these like dispensers, which feeds them down here. So that's all that does. The other yellow wire, it just turns on some wire bulbs and stuff and some lights along this sort of floor, and it turns on the lights in this chamber. Frankly, I could have connected those two and just had one yellow wire coming off the thing, but you know, whatever. I mean, I chose not to do that. It doesn't really matter. Again, it's like, it's not that easy to think of like, you know, 16 unique uses for wires such that it's required that those wires don't, you know, intersect each other, and they're all pulsed from the same initial thing. Now let's turn off blue, green, and yellow, and we have red. So what red does, first thing red does is it hits the faulty gate, the faulty lamp above this if gate right here. It's kind of dark, you can't necessarily see it too well, but there's an if gate. It hits the faulty lamp, and then the lamp underneath that is on, which means the gate then emits a pulse. Now if I show you the blue wire, the gate pulses itself, which means it's just going to start smoking over, right? Which means when I put in the gem lock, this gate will just emit smoke. Now the reason it's emitting smoke is the idea is that is, again, the factory's turning on, the machines are running, and they're emitting smoke when they're running. Right now in the off state, they don't do anything, there's no smoke. When the factory turns on, this machine starts emitting smoke. That's the whole idea behind that. And if I go over here, that same red wire connects to another logic gate right here, where it hits the faulty lamp, the lamp underneath is on, the gate emits a pulse, it starts pulsing itself. And because this gate has blue, green, and yellow wires coming out of the bottom, it pulses itself, you know, with more pulses, which means the amount of smoke this gate emits is going to be more than the amount of smoke the first gate emits. That's just a way of getting more smoke to come out of it. The idea is the machine's emitting lots and lots of smoke, right? Now, this red wire, it also hits this slime statue here, which is going to start spawning slimes, and they're going to start coming down and filing into this chamber. And as I explained in part 10 of the main tour, this whole facility, at least this part of the facility, is where the precursors had actually created and built the slime enemies that you see in the world, and this is the chamber where they're created. So when you turn on the facility, it starts creating them. That's sort of the idea. Now, you also have a timer right here that the red wire is connected to, which means it's going to start, it'll pulse these logic gates every second so that they're going to continually emit smoke. Now, then you have the green wire, which is coming from the gem lock, and now it does the same thing. It hits another 1 second timer, it hits these two wire bulbs down here, and it hits this faulty lamp, which means the lamp underneath is on, so the gate's going to start pulsing itself. And again, there's lots of different wires here, so the gate's going to pulse itself a lot, just like the one above. And because it's on a timer, it's going to keep doing that. So that's basically what it does. The gem lock turns on some lights, and it turns on, mostly the important thing is it turns on the smoky gates. And I think the smoky gate thing is, in particular, the thing that's interesting, because you can get a lot of very cool, like, the factory is off, then the factory turns on kind of effect with turning on and off smoky gates. Now all the other wires here are just for turning on like the lights in the room and stuff that you can just, like, I can just hit a switch and do that. They don't do anything else. So I'm just gonna put in the gem lock and show you what it all looks like. So as you see, the lights here turned on. Come over here, and yeah, the green is on and the green is on here, so it's like the factory has, processing things properly. And you come over here and you got smoking gates. Oh, and I should turn the lights on to make it all look much more alive. You got lots of smoking gates over here, etc. You get the idea. This was the this was the intention. So yeah. And then you got smoky gates. So that's basically what the sapphire gem lock does. As you can see, the idea is that it augments all of these things that are in the build and gives the build more flavor, more of a storytelling component. Now, I'm just going to show off another gemlock hub that I've got here in the world very quickly. It will require going down to hell, which I will do quickly now. I'm just going to skip all this stuff and go down to hell. Now, this is a gemlock hub that I have not shown in the main tour. I haven't gotten to this part of the main tour yet, but I'm just going to show it off to give a sense of the technicalities. You can, again, you can activate lots of things. You can activate traps. You can activate smoky gates. You can use it to activate, like, I don't know, computer screens and stuff, to have like a big, like, computer room where the gemlock turns it all on. So yeah, here we are. This is the amber gemlock. Now, the amber gemlock hub. Now, what it's going to do when I put the gem in, this sort of pixel arty build, this big demon, I call him Demon Man. He is the amber gemlock hub, and if I put it in, what starts happening is he starts blinking and casting spells. So the idea here, right, I only have 3 wires coming off of it, so I really could have done this with a switch, but it's a lot cooler with the gemlock because of how the gemlock looks. So first things first, you have a red wire which turns on the orange gemspark lights that are supposed to be on his knuckles on his left hand, and it also procs the fire traps that are in his palm, so that it's like he's summoning fire in his hand. The red wire also is on a 1-second timer, so that procs every second, happens over and over again, and it also touches this faulty lamp mechanism underneath with the if gate, and it hits that faulty lamp and the lamp underneath. So what happens is this gate will pulse every other time that it's pulsed, and since the timer emits a pulse every second, this gate will emit a pulse every 2 seconds. It emits a pulse through the blue wire, which, as you can see, hits all of these like ambient purple gem sparks along his wings. So what happens is they will turn on and off every 2 seconds, and that just adds a tiny little bit of sort of coloring to his his overall body. Now then you have the green wire. Now the green wire, what it does is it hits all of the submerged geysers in the lava, and it hits a 3-second timer. There's no gate attached to it. The idea is just the geysers are procced every 3 seconds, and that's about it. And then you have the yellow wire. The yellow wire hits his eyes and the gem sparks in his eyes, and it hits the gem sparks on his knuckles on his right fist. And what happens there is that it's attached to a 5-second timer, so that he blinks and the gem spark on his fist turn on every 5 seconds. Now the same wire will also hit the faulty lamp and the lamp underneath it of this if gate, so this if gate will emit a pulse every 10 seconds over to the fire traps on Demon Man's right fist. So what essentially happens is all these effects are just on a different set of timers. You got the... Oops. All the flesh has been summoned by accident. You got the fire in the right fist, that's every 10 seconds. The lights in his eyes and the fist every 5 seconds. The fire in his palm is every 1 second. The lights that are in the wings is every 2 seconds. And the geysers is every 3 seconds. And that's essentially how that works. So yeah, that's the second example of a gemlock hub. And that was pretty much there to illustrate the point. I'm just going to turn him off now. So yeah, that's essentially the idea. And by all means, please look at the forums where I will post what all the other gemlock hubs do as I eventually present them. And yeah, that is it. Cheers.